We begin this chapter off in Xwood Gorge country, where a new crisis is looming near. The buildings in the country started to shake violently at the same time. It was due to the emergence of the giant tree at Xwood, which has been confirmed. At the same time, the same giant tree emerges across the continent. The nearby cities of the Drad Kingdom started to issue an emergency evacuation notice to its citizens in order to save as many lives as they could. And now, the world is slowly returning back to its true nature. We spot Art's group with the commander walking along a path as buildings all around them were covered in plants and trees. As they continue on their walk, Rain tells Art that the magical essence around them was dense. Grateful for the information, Art offers her some food in exchange, but at first Rain declines the offer. But it didn't take long for her stomach to let out a huge growling noise, catching the attention of Art and URK. After hearing her stomach grumbling, URK decides to offer Rain some of their rations, which she gladly accepts now. Urk's brother then questions his troops about the current situation of their country. They quickly reported back that treeification has been confirmed in all nearby cities, and that there were even reports of monster sightings in the places near to them. Art quickly gave his thanks to the troops and found it wonderful to see that they were still all right. The troop replied that their current mission involves the investigation and subjugation of Xwoods, and that they would like to extend their gratitude to the entire Marquis family for being a part of their efforts in fighting against it. Urk's brother was quick to praise his sister's cooperation, telling the troops to give even more gratitude since she has joined in the cause of fighting against the Xwoods. With that said, Art was actually stunned to see how the place they were at was actually a city, since it was now all covered in plants and trees. Rain warns them about the danger of Xwood's damage, citing that it was spreading far and wide, and that other places have been affected. Wanting to know more, URK questions Rain about what exactly is the monster they were facing, the monster known as Xwood. With a hint of sadness and seriousness in her eyes, Rain finally reveals the information she knew about it. Xwood was an S-rank monster that has existed since ancient times. It has the ability to parasite trees and monsters, causing them to attack people whenever they have the chance. She also reveals that Xwood has been her archenemy for the last 436 years. As Rain was telling the group about what she knew, the commander stumbled upon something in front of him. It turns out to be Xwood's seed. Rain continues to tell the group that at the center of the continental treeification, there was always an Xwood seed present. She even tells them to look closely at its roots. Art was quick to notice that its roots were extending in a certain direction. Rain agrees with him, citing that the roots of the seeds appearing everywhere all point in one direction. Urk's brother was in serious mode as he detects that they might be in the Xwood stronghold, but the commander tells him that it was hopeful thinking as there were odd reports that were given to him before. The first report stated that all those who went on the investigation have successfully returned. The second report stated that none of the personnel were injured, but some had partial memory loss. The third report stated that despite years of personal involvement, there still have been no reports. The commander also knew that several people had told him the same thing, which was that they found themselves outside the forest without realizing it. Urk's brother found it strange with all that information, as it meant that there were no casualties in the years leading to the investigation. Art too was wondering how it was possible. They were up against such a powerful enemy, and yet there was close to no damage. Hearing all the facts and combining them, Art deduces that the monster known as Xwood didn't intend on invading the human countries. Saying that out loud, URK calls Art's thoughts crazy. Art even tells her that if no one has to fight, then it would be the way he wanted things to go. But as he told URK those things, a random ice needle spell was casted near him, causing Art to leap out of danger. It turns out that Rain had fired a shot at him, warning Art that all monsters must be destroyed, and that there were no exceptions to this rule. But Art fights back, saying that there was no point in destroying something that didn't have hostile intent towards them. As a piece of advice, Rain tells Art that his softness and sentimentality won't be able to save everyone. Her words cut deep as Art started to reflect upon his actions that he did in the past. In order to ease the tension in the group, URK tries to justify that doing things peacefully was just Art's way, but Rain continues to stand firm, telling everyone that monsters can never be understood or reconciled with. In the midst of their argument, Urk's brother warns them to pay attention and to brace themselves as the path ahead of them starts to be filled with some sort of fog. Soon enough, the only one left standing was Art, as the entire group had grown separated in that short brief moment. All Art could hear was every member complaining about what was going on, suspecting that this was the word of Xwood. The commander shouts to warn them that the fog was a type of magic that dulls their magical perception, so they can't be separated, and that according to the reports he received, the last memory that everyone had was a wave of mist descending upon them. Heeding the commander's advice to not get separated, Art quickly calls out to URK, telling her to stick closely to him while they were in the mist. After some time, Art soon chanced upon a figure that looked like URK, while URK in a different part found something that looked like Art. Urk's brother managed to stay close enough to Rain as they both spotted URK, but as he reached out to her, Rain suspected something was off. Before he could touch his sister, Rain fires a magic spell called Aqua Bullet, hitting the back of URK. Her sudden action causes Urk's brother to be confused as he tells her to explain her actions. Rain simply tells him to open his eyes. It turns out that the URK they had found in the mist was actually Xwood, as the figure turned out, revealing not a human face, but Xwood's seed instead. Back to Art's side, he was quick to spot that the monster was using Urk's face, while URK and the troops were battling against Art's Xwood form. Hearing the confusion and fighting noises, Urk's brother realized that they had fallen into the Xwood's trap, but Rain tells him that it was the opposite. Seeing the wave of monsters in front of them had actually saved her the trouble of searching for the boss. But as Urk's brother wonders what it was that was on top of the monster's head, Rain went into killing mode. She started to chant her spell, focusing her magic into the water around her. With a single wave of her staff and a bright light, she sent out the stream of water, cutting the monsters that were in front of them into pieces easily. She did all this as a chill girl. Urk's brother was shocked by her powers, realizing that his help wasn't needed at all. In his mind, he expected such a powerful attack from the person known as the legendary Rainwater Magician. As Art casually cuts down the monsters that surrounded him, Urk's brother continued to think that stopping the fight back then, between Art and Rain, was the right choice. After cutting down the monsters, Art recognizes the object on its head as an Xwood seed. Looking closely at the monsters, he notices that the enemy hasn't really attacked them yet, but were just standing there, like a form of intimidation. Even though he had sliced and diced a few of them, Art could see that there was no end. So he changes his game plan. Instead of fighting, he decides to leave them behind in order to find URK first. Wandering through the mist and forest by himself, Art wonders if his actions were enough to scatter the enemies around, and whether URK and the others were doing fine without him. As he delved deeper into the mist, Art chanced upon a huge tree in the center of everything. Looking at it closely, he wonders how long something this big has been here. Before he did anything, a voice appeared in the air, catching his attention. Art immediately looks around, trying to spot the source of it as the voice tells him to leave. "Leave, child of man," said the voice. The voice became even more angry, telling Art that all trespassers seeking sin in its domain are to leave immediately, otherwise they will pay the ultimate price. The moment those words were said, Xwood finally revealed its true form, in the form of a dragon made out of trees and plants as it transformed from its huge tree. Art was now standing alone against a dragon, shocked at the fact that it could speak their language. Soon enough, sharp vines started to appear before him, aimed to strike him down as he dodged the monster's attacks. But as he did, he felt something was off. There was a lack of resistance. Sensing this, Art decides to go with it and simply stands still as the attack was about to land. The sharp vines stopped merely inches away from Art's head. Art remained calm in the face of it, not showing any signs of fear. Xwood soon began to question Art about his actions, and why he didn't resist the attack. Art calmly replied that he knew that the S-rank monster didn't really want to attack or kill the people of the country. After hearing those words, the Xwood grew silent without responding. Seeing the way it was acting, Art tells it that silence means that it agrees with his words. Art continues on, stating that the Xwood could control monsters with its seeds, and yet, based on its actions and the actions of the monsters it was controlling, Art couldn't feel any sense of malice or hatred in them, which made him ask the monster if there was a reason behind it. Instead of answering Art's question, the Xwood simply asks him about his purpose as a child of man. Art replies and introduces himself, telling the Xwood that he had come here to negotiate directly, as it was suspected that the Xwood was to blame for the current situation of the country. With a calm and serious look on his face, Art demands that the Xwood leave from their continent.